Oh my goodness, can you even believe it? It's time for another installment of Walt Disney World in Pandemic. Hello everyone, Wade for the Kingdom Report, back with you once more, this time covering everything Disney dining when it comes to Walt Disney World during this very unique time. Visiting the theme parks of Walt Disney World is quite a personal choice at the moment, so we're trying to give you all the information, all the context you need to make the best decision possible. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, that you have those notifications turned on, and that you give this video a big old thumbs up. It helps us know that we're on the right track and we're producing content that you appreciate most. Here we are at Disney's Hollywood Studios, quite possibly the most popular of all the Disney parks right now in Orlando, mainly because Disney's Hollywood Studios is home to a lot of the newer attractions via Toy Story Land, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway attraction. You'll notice that by reservation only, this is a park that you can have access to. However, those reservations run out very quickly. And then once you're inside the park, most of the crowds are kind of sequestered to the various lands that have all the action. So your Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, your Toy Story Land, and then right smack in the middle at the end of this road for the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. And of course, if you're interested in how we cover the parks in long form during this global health crisis, well, head on over to the playlist Walt Disney World in Pandemic here on the Kingdom Report YouTube channel, where you can check out our travel to Walt Disney World, our stay at Disney's Pop Century Resort, and then of course our lengthy overviews of Magic Kingdom Park, Disney's Animal Kingdom, Epcot, and yes, of course, right here at Disney's Hollywood Studios. In addition to that, a variety of dining reviews have already been completed and are socked away for you, not just in the theme parks, but also dining at the various hotels that are currently open in Walt Disney World. This pan that we do, sort of across the center of the park, is to the Chinese Theater, the Cinderella Castle of this theme park, and it is home to that Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway attraction I was talking about. This location is hoppin' because this ride only had about a month of action before it was shut down due to the global health crisis, and now that it's back open, everybody wants to experience it for the first time. But it's all about the food, it's all about eating today, and that is what we are here to do. And just off of Echo Lake here in the center of the park, it's 50's Primetime Diner. 50's Primetime Diner obviously looks like a house, doesn't it? Yeah, it looks like a home, and that's because you are coming home. It is all things 1950s here. You are about to visit your family once again for a lovely meal. This restaurant definitely has the kitsch of 1950s, so that kitschiness of the attitude and the ambiance, the feeling of the 1950s. The waitresses dress similarly to like Leave It to Beaver character June Cleaver, and each acts as though they are like your mother or maybe your sister or your aunt, and they treat you like your family walking in after they haven't seen you for a year. And so they definitely lay it on thick when you come to visit this restaurant. Just next door to the front of the restaurant is the Tune-In Lounge. The Tune-In Lounge is a separate door, but still the same location for 50's Primetime Diner. It is a place that was basically a bar that was open to everybody to come on in and enjoy some of the classic drinks that they serve at 50's Primetime Cafe without waiting for the restaurant. However, right now, due to the global health crisis, that is not in action, so you can't go into the Tune-In Lounge. It is only used as an exit for the restaurant. Here inside the lounge, you notice that the bar stools are gone, the chairs have been removed, and the love seats are missing, and that is mainly to have set up a flow in which you enter on the opposite side of this room next to that desk, and you exit on this side next to the hand sanitizer, as these people are doing. This restaurant, otherwise, with the lounge as a casualty of the new way of doing things, is still so much fun, is still such a wonderful place to visit, such a throwback location to really the charm of the 1950s, the fun antics of the 1950s. And when I say antics, I mean it. Your serving staff, well, they're members of your family. So you might have your aunt serving you, or in my case, my cousin was serving me, and you don't want to misbehave here. If you misbehave, they might just go get mom in the kitchen. And you don't want that. No, no. Part of the fun is playing along to all of the storyline that you are sitting in, because clearly, as I am sat here, I am in Mom's dining room, right? I am back at home, and here in the dining room, there are plenty of TVs to enjoy, black and white TVs, by the way, to enjoy 50 sitcoms sort of playing on a loop, clips back to back to really soak in and really feel that over-the-top theming. And this is a location that I really enjoy coming to, mainly to just play along, mainly to just feel like I'm transported back in time and enjoying myself perhaps a 1950s lunch. That's right. And you'll notice here that the slip of paper that they are now providing during this unique time has a QR code on it, in which you scan with your phone. That brings up the menu, and you can choose what you'd like, and that way they can throw away the slip when we're done, and no menus have to be presented, touched, or handled. 50's Primetime Diner was opened in 1989 as part of 4 restaurants here in Hollywood Studios. Mama Melrose Ristorante Italiano, Hollywood Brown Derby, as well as the Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater restaurant is also available at this park. You'll notice that I decided, as an appetizer, to go with Cousin Amy's Iceberg Lettuce Wedge. Ranch dressing, rice pepper bacon, and chives are on this baby for $9. Now, I have to admit, this really is exactly how it sounds, and I'm not one of those people that expects more, but at a Disney restaurant, they typically offer more. They typically put more on a plate than just what you're getting. This really was as though Mom took an iceberg head, sliced it in half, threw some ranch on it, and said, "Here, kid, eat up." That's what this was. So I warn you, while it's exactly how it's listed, don't expect anything else. Don't expect anything more. It is a no-frills restaurant that puts everything really into the theming and less into the food. Still palatable, but not something I would order again. Definitely not something that I would come back for, but it is something that is offered and comes to you courtesy of Cousin Amy. Thanks a lot, Cousin Amy. Jeez. And I gotta admit, one of the big concerns I had was that the antics would not be in effect, given the fact that so much has changed in terms of distancing and health and safety. But I was pleasantly surprised. Not only was my server, my cousin, very involved and very much of the antics and having fun with me, but also you saw Mom there off to the right. She was arguing with that table and telling them to eat their vegetables. So, antics are still in effect here at 50's Primetime Diner. And you speak of vegetables and you see vegetables. This is the plate that I ordered. It's a sampling of Mom's favorite recipes. We start there with the green beans, and then, of course, the fried chicken. We got ourselves some of that tender pot roast, and you can't miss traditional meatloaf with all the fixins. In addition to these, you have the mashed potatoes smothered in gravy right smack in the middle. These are all things that you can order individually, but I wanted to try out each one of them all on one plate, and therefore you have a Mom's favorite recipe sampler. $26 is what this clocked in at. Much like Cousin Amy's iceberg wedge salad, this just felt kind of presented as though Mom slopped everything on the plate, and maybe that's the theme. It always leaves a little bit more to be desired in terms of presentation, but the food is there at least, so yeah, I got my food, I got my grub. We start with the green beans, and these were not only crisp, but they were nice and warm. They were buttery and a bit of a garlic taste to them, so it was something that I thought complemented everything else on the plate just fine. We continue on, though, with the traditional meatloaf. And while I'm a sucker for a good meatloaf, this one was a little too soggy for my liking and just a little bit mushy inside, almost like maybe it wasn't cooked all the way through. I will say that as much as they tried to dress it up with the ketchup, it came off as very bland. Even with everything packed sort of inside of it, I expected just far more flavor than I got, and it was a little disappointing. Again, mushy and lacking any sort of flavor. Threw some pepper on there just to give it some sort of spice. Otherwise, was not all that impressed with the meatloaf. Moving along to the mashed potatoes, they were a little more dense than even the meatloaf was. They stuck together and definitely came off with a bit more of a consistency of thickness than the meatloaf did, which I look at as kind of a problem. The gravy rather gelatinous and not necessarily doing anything to cover up the tasteless action that I was getting from these mashed potatoes. There was maybe even just a little bit of sour taste to the mashed potatoes, and they weren't the sour cream mash, and I have had those before at a Disney park. They specifically just said mashed potatoes, and I double checked. They just came off a little sour. Now time for the fork tender pot roast, as it is called. It did fall apart on me, which was good. That was something that I was looking for. It did feel a little bit fresher going down my gullet than, say, the meatloaf did, so that was also a nice plus. And the seasoning that went into this also gave it quite a kick. I appreciated that, and the pot roast ended up being, I believe, my favorite thing on this plate, especially when I went in for the fried chicken, kind of assuming that that was going to be my favorite no matter what. This ended up being less than favorable. You can almost tell in this shot how dry the fried chicken is. It came to me that way, and I could be completely wrong. Maybe it was prepared fresh, but it almost seemed like it had been sitting under a heat lamp for a while and maybe was tossed on my plate last minute. I definitely tried to take a few stabs at this, but for what I thought was going to be the home run of the plate, I was sorely disappointed. And I gotta admit to you that if you are looking to order one thing off of this plate for it to be its own standalone, I would say that pot roast would probably be your best bet. However, now it's time to focus on something a little more positive, and that is dessert. At 50's Primetime, they really do try and focus on the comfort food, and they deliver when it comes to the treats. This is your traditional ice cream sundae, hot fudge style. Sent me back $7 when it came to the table. It was so beautiful, so pretty, I didn't even want to touch it. A lot of desserts come that way at Disney, and when they're so photogenic, you just don't even want to mess with them. But this baby was so much bigger than I had anticipated too, and I just had to finally go in for it. The cherry on top, I mean, doesn't it do it for you? It doesn't for me. But the cloudy layers of decadent whipped cream on top of this sundae were so dang good. Oh my gosh, I love myself a good sundae, and this ended up delivering on every level. And I have to admit, it almost made up for the meal. I mean, it's packed in with scoops of the vanilla ice cream and layers of hot fudge smack dab in the middle. It was, when combined all together, just a sugary dream of goodness. It led you to a bit of Pleasure Town, if you get my drift. Oh yeah, the sugary kind, of course. Yeah, what a food coma can do to you. But no, this sundae entirely for $7, totally worth it. Like I said, the size of it alone was well worth the price, and was one of the few things that I felt was probably priced below expectations when I saw it here at 50's Primetime. Loved it to death, and definitely something I would order again. And here at the end of the meal, my cousin brought me the check, to which I said to him, I didn't think coming home for lunch meant that family billed one another, but I guess family is only skin deep in this regard. So I dealt with it in the temporary check holder, as you can see there, one that they throw away just as soon as you're done due to the pandemic. Between the soda, hot fudge sundae, and mom's favorite sampler, as well as the salad wedge, clocked in at $49.30 with tax, almost $50 for a solo meal. And so now we come to our conclusion, where we answer the questions for you: is it safe, and is it comfortable? This is a location where I noticed they went to great lengths to make sure that you felt safe. Not only there at the beginning did I show you that they have a special way in and a special way out, even clearing out their lounge and all of their seating areas, but this is a location where I saw cleaning going on constantly. Not only did I see cleaning between people's meals and them leaving the table, I saw cleaning while we were eating. They were cleaning around us. They were making sure that every square inch of this place sparkled. So the public spaces were being cleaned constantly. There is a close range of tables here, more so than I've noticed at the other restaurants. I didn't notice anything in particular in terms of them stationing out tables that were blocked off. In fact, they were using every table in the restaurant. Now, granted, you are about 6 feet away from everybody in here, but it's really noticeable when you've been to other restaurants that block out tables between you and other diners, and when you come into an environment like this, and maybe it's because of the floor plan and the way it's all set up, but it did feel a little more crowded than other restaurants that I was experiencing up until this point. And keep in mind, no lobby or bar seating is available. As I had mentioned, the lounge cleared out for the sake of safety. And when it comes to Is it comfortable? Well, the servers, they do wear face shields and masks the entire time, as is consistent across the property in all of the table service environments. It is still very much a rowdy environment, so I mentioned that the antics are still in full effect here. That is part of the charm, where if you misbehave, well, they're gonna shame you. They're gonna make sure that you pay for your misbehavior. This is Mom's house. You don't mess with her. And of course, the cast members still all have very big personalities. My cousin had a little bit of fun with me, but for the most part, he saved all of the over-the-top sort of theatrics for the tables that had more than just one diner. Again, very engaging, very upbeat with me. He always made sure I had everything that I needed, but it was not some place that he spent a whole lot of time on, it being, of course, my table. However, this is a location that I noticed a lot of antics going on around me, and so it's always fun because you feel like you're a part of it because you're in the dining room with them. When I saw Mom come out and yell at the table next to me for not finishing their vegetables and yelling and screaming about how hard she works in the kitchen just to have them disrespect her food and not eat their veggies and not grow up to be big, strong, strapping men, I thought it was just fantastic. And that is really why people come to dine here. It's an interactive experience that most families come to make a part of their overall vacation because it is so unique in terms of dining offerings across the Disney World property. This, of course, brings us to the final assessment, and that is it worth it? I mentioned a little bit earlier that prices here do seem to be rather inflated for what you get. The Mom's sampler platter, really, for $26 and what I got, was pretty darn disappointing, mainly because the food was, while palatable, not good. And there was one thing on the plate that stood out to me, and that was the pot roast. The rest of it was very forgettable, kind of sad. The presentation was just sort of slopped together. And like I said, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe that was because it's supposed to be like home, and that's sort of how things are presented to you at home, slopped on a plate and tossed your direction. The appetizer was really sad with the iceberg wedge salad, so definitely not something I'm going to get again. I will say that this is a location where the desserts are the standout, and of course the over-the-top theming is why people come here. It's why I return and will return in the future. Again, food, palatable, definitely not something I enjoy anymore. I remember a time about 10 years ago where the food was always consistently very good, and then trip to trip, from that point, it's become very hit and miss. Looking forward to the day where the food can balance out with the experience and it can become an exceptional dining destination all over again. It is a location I would recommend if you've never experienced it before and you want those special memories. Go ahead and do it. Again, the food is palatable. It's just a little expensive, but you are getting quite the experience in return from the servers. Even right now, during the middle of the pandemic, they're doing their best to really amplify the overall antics. And something you should also keep in mind is if you don't like the antics, if you don't like the over-the-top silliness and playing into the storyline, you're probably not going to want to eat here. It is a location that definitely pushes it on you. So if you want to head on over to the Hollywood Brown Derby, it'll be much more peaceful on that end. Hey, make sure you're subscribed, you got that notification bell turned on, and you give us a big old thumbs up. And for the Kingdom Report, I'm Wade Heath. We'll see you next time for another edition of Walt Disney World in Pandemic.